Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is David Wangard with the Achieving with Integrity project, and this is a backup recording of the live presentation that we did yesterday on March 25th, and we apologize for the technical difficulty that got us to this point. Jason isn't able to join me this evening for this recording, but I'm going to go ahead and get the slide deck up for you for our first webinar lesson focused on what's moral. So with that, we'll get started. So again, this is our first series in our 4 series of webinars, and while Jason is not with us this afternoon, he will be joining us for future sessions. Jason's scholarship is particularly a benefit to our program, and he's really a gifted writer and thinker about this topic, and I'm happy to have him as a colleague. And I've presented my introduction to you at our earlier meetings, and we're recognizing now that we've got 16 colleagues from 5 high schools in Connecticut and New Jersey, and we want you to be able to access that communication we talked about through our project blog, and everyone was sent an email with a link to that blog. We're working out some of the bugs with that. Some of you have replied saying that you were blocked from entering it. You need to enter it with your work email, the email that you were contacted to get onto the blog. And if there's an issue with that, just let me know, and we're working through those to make sure people have access to it. So I'm recording this after the fact. But this was the information that we presented yesterday within the time frame, and the overview that we looked at is consistent with our introductory meeting. And so some of this I'm going to go through quickly, but I want you to recognize what the slide deck will be that's on both the blog and within this recording. So we talked, as we met earlier, about our short and long-term goals. This short-term element of our project this year is just really to test our success with you as teachers and the success with our protocol with students. We're not looking at data in terms of correlational data with this, although we will be collecting it as though we were. As we talked about, this is really a pilot. Where this coming December, we'd want to be getting your feedback that this was doable and practical in terms of your classwork. The long-term goal, if we're able to be successful, is to determine that these objectives can be put into place in a correlational study, and we would be grateful to have your participation in that if we're successful this year. So this particular webinar, we're looking at the ideas, the objectives of increasing your understanding of moral functioning, and how to apply that within our 4-component model that was introduced within our introductory meetings this past month. And we want to emphasize Jonathan Haidt's 5 intuitive ethics in that, and how you can be presenting that to your students. To develop this moral awareness, the first component of our 4-component model. And so our behavioral objective is to initiate a practice lesson that we'll ask you to post back on our blog through me, and we hope we're getting and increasing your enthusiasm for the project for this as well. So we've introduced our conceptual model. That some of the slides that you might recall from our first meeting talked about these 4 dimensions of the moral awareness, judgment, commitment, and character, all to promote the moral functioning. And we acknowledged that this moral functioning is taking place within a context that's broader than just our classrooms and the complexity of that, but we're tackling it with the one element that we can now to arrive at establishing cultural norms in your class, and hopefully can expand that into a school climate as you get peers to join you in the project. But again, our focus, recognizing again the complexity, are these 4 components, and today's focus is on the moral awareness, and it should answer or respond to the question, what's moral? The second, judgment, what's right, and our third lesson will be, am I responsible to do this in my moral commitment, and then how do I do the right thing through moral action? So we introduced this again at our last meeting as well, looking at these core questions. Today's focus will be again on the what's moral, and is this a moral situation, and our follow-up lessons will be as shown. We have some interest to introduce to you the Jonathan Haidt's core values, as we noted last time, and we'll be seeing how we can apply those today. So this discussion on moral awareness, and can we look at a situation and see if there's a moral situation there? Our primary goal is to raise awareness of the moral dimensions of various forms of academic dishonesty, recognizing how issues of fairness, respect, and responsibility are at stake in behaviors such as plagiarism and test cheating. So what's moral? What does that mean when we say it? And what is actually defining a moral issue? Here's just some ideas to ask you, and you could ask your students to take some time to think about what is defining this. And I mean, this could be just done on a blank sheet of paper, right? You're beginning a discussion. What does it mean to them? What defines a moral issue? There's other ways to go about this. Within this slide, you see how we could categorize different behaviors, and we're going to end up looking at 3 different classifications of how, just from driving on the right side of the road, to changing your hair color, to cheating on a partner, how might people classify these in terms of their moral rightness or wrongness? And some people, and Elliot Turiel is one that introduced the classifications that come into recognizing what are personal decisions, and obviously the changing the hair color might be one that falls into this idea of these are personal decisions that I might make. And another would be conventional. What does the culture say, and possibly the culture has even extrapolated that into law, so that driving on the right side of the road is obviously a legal convention in the United States. Eating with a fork is more of a conventional idea as well. But when something becomes a moral circumstance, and your students can have this discussion, and again, an exercise like this might help you find a way to start that discussion with your students, and is cheating on someone, or bullying another person, or stealing, besides being conventionally wrong in our schools, the bullying and stealing from a store, but is there a moral issue associated with these things as well? So these dimensions are dimensions that you can discuss with your students, and from the conventional, this is a cultural description, laws and rules, to the moral side, whether there's universal and prescriptive ideas that define these states, that's as opposed to just the personal discretion and personal decisions about behaviors. And so obviously our project is focused on academic integrity issues, and so we can throw in the question, what about plagiarism or cheating on an exam? What domains do these fall in? Is this a personal decision, conventional, or moral? And obviously we want to be bringing these questions to the fore for your students to be looking at the moral dimensions of academic integrity issues. So again, we cited just a little earlier the name Elliot Turiel. He's a man who has written about this and these 3 domains of behavior. This could be a starting point for a discussion with your students. And I apologize if you're seeing that sign. I don't know why that keeps coming up. And we also have already introduced the idea that Jonathan Haidt, who had written a lot of this previously at the University of Virginia, he's now at New York University Stern School of Business, but he has identified through psychological studies, and as I understand it, his samples include representatives from across the globe, intuitive ethics, he calls them, that are represented in people. There's actually a 6th one for the purpose of this discussion, we're focusing on 5 of his: the care and harm, where there's a concern for others and protecting them from harm; fairness and cheating, which is associated with justice and treating others equally; loyalty and betrayal, identifying a fidelity to a group, family, or nation. And clearly, when we think about our kids, loyalty and betrayal it can be a huge ethical component for the young people to be dealing with. And authority and subversion, respect for traditional, legitimate authority; sanctity and degradation. We talked about that in our individual meetings, and how the purity or sanctity of one's thinking could be also defined by integrity. So the link here that you will receive in the PowerPoint can bring you to more work from Jonathan Haidt. And he defined that work, and in one of our introductory meetings, one of you had recognized some of the literature behind this, and his literature to show how within these intuitive ethics, some were aligned more with folks who describe themselves as more liberal, and some with folks who describe themselves as more conservative. The point being here is not to segregate our liberal and conservative friends as much as to recognize not everybody's going to agree to the particular value or the intuitive ethic that's might make a decision between a right and a wrong decision. And at the midpoint here, in the neutral or moderate point, most of these intersect. But our goal in this project isn't necessarily to say that one set of values is going to be superior to another, as much as allow your students to explore the fact of how these values can help them make ethical decisions. And recognizing of these 5, there's a lot of power to be able to evaluate ethical decisions as opposed to just self-motivation or self-progress. Now, we're going to go back. This is a dense slide. We get it, and it's complicated with statistics. What's the point? From this, we discuss this as a summative discussion in our introductory meetings, to recognize that when students make a moral claim on something, when they make a moral claim that it's morally wrong to plagiarize, or we'll look at test cheating next, that they're more likely to avoid the behavior. And so we could explain this and support this slide and give you more background on the statistics. But the takeaway from here is really that when students say that there's a moral wrong, it does support their resistance to test copying or plagiarism. And again, that's the point of our introduction today, is to develop this moral awareness in our students. And how can we raise that moral awareness in the classroom? So this slide is showing this recognition that to get to a place of questioning what's moral and isn't a moral situation, on the left side of our screen we see that there's something that would elicit, or a stimuli that it will elicit some concern. And if it goes through our mechanism of looking at core ethics, as Jonathan Haidt would point out, we would have a look at this stimuli, whatever it might be. I'm seeing a friend copying from somebody on an exam. Somebody's asking me to help them inappropriately. There's an opportunity to exchange information about an exam in a hall. Then these 5 ethics, are they vibrating inside of me? Is there something that says this isn't fair, or this is cheating, or is loyalty to the academic integrity being betrayed, or am I violating some rule, or the sanctity? Again, I'm going to refer to that as integrity. Is my purity of integrity being harmed? So the mechanisms that we want to use and encourage are, again, developing the vocabulary of Haidt's intuitive ethics, that your students have become introduced to these, and will look at stimuli or activities and ask, is there a moral situation taking place in light of these intuitive ethics? So there's several steps that you'll be seeing on the worksheet, which is already posted on our blog. And this is these steps we would like you to work with your students to practice. And the first thing is, notice that there is a problem, and what's what is the nature of the situation, that they can show some comprehension of what the problem or the issue involves, and then be able to restate it and recognize, well, what was the precursors, how did it come about, and then who are the interested parties, who's affected by this, and that analysis is useful in terms of whether or not they include others outside of themselves and a peer. Do they recognize that maybe other students are involved, or even their family name might be involved? But we're adapting these steps for moral awareness from the work of Navarez and Endicott, and they had, within moral awareness, they had these two additional steps, which we've moved to our second component, and we'll be addressing those more later. But for our particular work right now, we want to be looking at these three steps: noticing the problem, state the situation, state the parties. So again, using Haidt's intuitive ethics as somewhat of a filter, if we notice the problem, what kind of problems are present in this situation? Is care violated? Is fairness violated? Is this a loyalty issue? We would like your students to be able to recognize these intuitive ethics quickly enough and their definitions, and then be able to discuss whether a particular situation or stimuli would engage these ethics, and that they can state now the problem in their own words, and again identify who the parties are that are involved. So here's an example of our appendix and our AMAP protocol, AMAP referring to this analysis of moral awareness protocol. And this protocol is the activity sheet that you'll find, the reflection sheet that you'll find on our blog. And this is what you can be using with students. And we've put one example in here, and these activity sheets will be available for you to edit. And they're going to be Word documents where you can take out the John and Jasmine scenario and put in your own, or have students find their own for that matter. But in this scenario, we're indicating to start and to be the stimulus for this discussion that John has been really busy, he's really tired, he's got an important science test and a paper due the next day. He likes his teachers and his work, and this is all relevant to, really how he's going to decide his dilemma that comes up here. But time's running out, and he's exhausted, right? And about midnight, his friend Jasmine sends him a text. She's just received a copy of the science exam. Want a copy? So here, we're John. We're placing ourselves in John's situation, and we want to go through our protocol. And the first thing is what are the issues here? What's the issues that are present? We've provided this as an example and others in the worksheets that you'll find on the blog. So here's the first one with John and Jasmine. The second is with Laura and her friend. And each of these are a little bit different. Some of these are coming directly from interviews that Jason has conducted and been able to create these dilemma pictures from young people that he's interviewed, Laura and Brad being specific examples. We've also drawn from current literature and put these cases in the appendix where you could adapt from the Stuyvesant high cheating scandal that was breaking this past year, and the Harvard story that also was breaking this last fall, where 125 students got caught up in some kind of take-home final exam, and the question of whether or not and how much collaboration they were supposed to be able to have. In addition, we've got stories from the professional world, and so going from adolescent stories that we've either made up from our own case history knowledge or from the papers to things that have come out about the professionals that we're trusting that are going to be following laws of academic integrity that they're responsible for. So most of you have probably heard about some of the indiscretions that the late Stephen Ambrose was involved with, as well as a case closer to those in Connecticut, a researcher, Dr. Deepak Das, who faked data in his Yukon studies. And so we're providing these cases just as examples for you in various domains, whether it's social studies, writing, or science, or obviously in a literature class. But our goal here today is to see, take from those cases or cases that you see are relevant, and we've provided for you an outline on the blog that is broken into these 4 components that we're looking for you to describe the setting and the materials you're going to use. We've given you goals and objectives that you could add to. We're asking you to keep the ones we've identified, and what are the activities that you'll use to transmit this with the student assessment. So here's an example of one of the activity sheets. So you'll fill in your subject area and the grade level, who you are in the school, and again, these are all Word documents that you'll be able to fill in. And then the text boxes you can expand and fill in as you see fit. We're asking you to use our AMAP with the students, but how you introduce Height's intuitive ethics, and how you review that question of what's moral to begin these kind of discussions. That's where we're leaving to your creativity, but we'd like you to document your ideas that you'll practice this spring, and then obviously with the intention that we want to use these next fall. So the goals, as we say here, we'd like you not to change but keep the goals we have in mind, but you can add to them as you see fit. And our objective is for students to be able to define morality using Height's intuitive ethics, and that they can use the AMAP protocol. And again, both of these documents are available to you as Word documents on our blog. So you would be able to add to these goals and then indicate how are you going to be introducing this through either some inquiry method or direct instruction, and we'd like you to be able to fill in these boxes with the goal that you'll send these lessons back to me, David Wangard, and I'll be posting them on the blog. And here's so the concluding segment of our outline, and there's space then on the sheet for you to be responding to how you'll be informally assessing and what more formal assessment you can do with writing assignments or by the use of the AMAP. So that's really our introduction for developing our question about what's moral. And again, the resources you'll find available to you on the blog will include the notes I've referred to multiple times here that have the AMAP, the PowerPoint that I showed here, and also this recording. You'll find those links on our blog site, with the intention then that before the next lesson round that you would be able to draft your responses using the outline on the blog, and capture that, fill in your ideas, return that to me as an attachment, and then I'll be posting everyone's ideas on the blog, and hopefully encourage you to look at other people's postings, particularly those of you who are working in the same subject area, and begin to initiate some dialogue among each other, and between Jason and I, you'd be asking questions as well. So our next session is going to be on April 8th, and similarly 2:55 to 3:40, and we'll be looking at the second component, and we're trying to respond to the question of what's right. And we will have a different set of worksheets for that, and we'll be posting that on our blog as well. So yes, this is a recorded version. My colleague and scholar Jason will be on with us live the next time, and we did have some exchange and questions, and if you're listening to this as a recording, we certainly welcome you to join us on the live presentation as we pursue this on April 8th. So thank you so much for coming back to the recording, and grateful for your participation in the project, and look forward to our continued collaboration.